Sikhs make up just 1.7% of India's population of 1.4 billion, yet they form the backbone of its military, supplying 8% of its troops. The Sikh regiment stands today as the highest decorated unit in the entire Indian Army. But jump back to the 1980s, and you find a stark contradiction. The Sikh-majority state of Punjab descended into a brutal war. Tens of thousands of people died as an armed insurgency fought a bloody campaign directly against the Indian state. Their ultimate objective was clear: tear the state of Punjab out of India to forge a completely independent nation called Khalistan. By the late 90s, the fighting stopped. But recently, a string of overseas assassinations, massive diaspora protests, and shattered diplomatic ties between India and Canada prove the fires never went out. To understand why a highly decorated community would go to war against the country they fought to protect, we have to bypass modern headlines. The real fracture traces back to a broken political contract drafted in August 1947. In 1947, 2 centuries of British colonial rule end. Lord Mountbatten is assigned the impossible task of dividing British India into 2 new countries, a Hindu-majority India and a Muslim-majority Pakistan. Jawaharlal Nehru, the future prime minister, convinces Sikh leaders to join India instead of demanding their own separate state. He secures their loyalty by promising a secular nation where Sikhs would enjoy a semi-autonomous setup in the north. This map shows the geographical trap. Sikhs made up roughly 15% of Punjab's population, living in heavily mixed communities alongside Hindus and Muslims, without a single majority district. On Independence Day, the revealed partition line slices Punjab straight down the middle. The human cost is staggering. 20 million people are forced to abandon their ancestral homes and cross these new lines. 1 million die in the ensuing violence. Sikhs flee eastward, permanently cut off from 150 of their holiest historical sites. The Sikh community paid a massive, disproportionate price in blood and land to secure India's independence. They expected their promised autonomy as a reward. Instead, they faced immediate political erasure. The first blow lands with the newly drafted 1950 Indian Constitution. It legally categorizes Sikhs simply as Hindus. Subsequent laws reinforce this classification, sparking deep fears within the community that their unique culture is being assimilated. In response, Sikhs peacefully mobilize. They demand a state drawn along linguistic lines to protect the Punjabi language and their identity. The central government answers by arresting tens of thousands of peaceful protesters. Looking at this map, you can see how the geography shifts. In 1966, the central government finally agrees to split Punjab along linguistic lines. It creates a state where Sikhs hold a 60% majority, but it drastically shrinks their geographical footprint. The new borders strip the state of valuable mountain resources. Chandigarh, a wealthy, newly built city intended to be Punjab's capital, is declared a shared territory administered directly from New Delhi. And New Delhi takes control of 76% of the water from Punjab's own rivers. Over 2 decades, the central government systematically eroded Punjab's land, wealth, and water. This steady disenfranchisement proved to the Sikh community that the leaders in New Delhi never intended to honor their 1947 promises. By the 1980s, the Green Revolution introduces engineered superseeds that make Punjab India's breadbasket. But these seeds require massive amounts of synthetic fertilizer and water. A severe lack of industrial investment leaves rural Sikh farmers crushed under debt, creating a volatile political void. A charismatic preacher named Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale steps into this vacuum. He channels the rural anger over water rights and poverty, urging his growing crowds to abandon failed nonviolent protests and arm themselves. As political violence rises, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi bypasses federal negotiations. She imposes strict laws suspending civil liberties and allowing the government to detain Punjabis without trial, framing the once patriotic Sikhs as a hostile, anti-national threat. In June 1984, the tensions break. The Indian military launches Operation Blue Star, deploying troops to eliminate Bhindranwale and his heavily armed followers. Tanks rolled directly into the Golden Temple complex, the spiritual center of the Sikh faith. Relentless artillery fire shatters the buildings, leaving Bhindranwale and hundreds of pilgrims dead amidst the marble ruins. Watching the state turn heavy artillery on their holiest site crosses an unbridgeable line. Decades of peaceful demands for water rights and federal autonomy die in the rubble, immediately replaced by a full-blown armed insurgency for Khalistan. By the mid-1990s, the state deploys hundreds of thousands of troops into Punjab. Through sweeping village-to-village operations, extrajudicial encounter killings, and overwhelming force, the armed Khalistan insurgency is crushed. But the military victory completely ignores the root causes. The militants are dead, yet the original disputes over river waters, the capital city, and accountability for government-backed massacres against Sikhs in 1984 remain entirely unaddressed. Hundreds of thousands of Sikhs fled to Canada and the UK to escape the violence. Decades later, that untreated, inherited trauma from a broken 1947 contract keeps the demand for Khalistan alive and smoldering in the global diaspora. When a state ignores the historical trauma and democratic grievances of a minority community, deploying tanks offers only an illusion of peace. Military force can suppress an insurgency, but it only pauses the conflict. It never ends it.